Actually, Paul, you know what? Maybe you want to record.
Or can I?
Think about that. I'll start the record. Okay, I'm recording now, and I'm going to hit the live stream in just a moment.
Can I ask a question?
Henry Huerta, yes, you can.
Is there, I mean, I believe in transparency, but is there a reason we have to record, or is there just a preference to record?
Yeah, no reason, just a preference that for those who can't make it, who want to make it or wanted to make it, want to see the discussion. And yeah, I should though announce throughout it that, you know, we are recording.
The only reason I ask is I didn't sit through one of the other meetings that got pretty contentious, but what I'm finding out is there's some people that really aren't aligned with us regardless of what. So we're kind of inviting people that don't think the way we do and strategically. And I think if we're going to have any success down the road, that because we take this opportunities to talk about, you know, strategies. And sometimes I think it's better to have a closer group, not just have it open. But that's just a personal thing. There might be a disagreement, but I just observation and what, you know, my opinion is.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, no, I hear you. This though is open to the public. We're sharing the link publicly, and we committed to posting these publicly on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, if you have some top secret strategy that you'd rather not share, don't share it. But
okay, I do. So I may not be on the meeting very long because
yeah.
I think we need to think strategically. We already know. We know who our allies are, and we know who our enemies are. So when we do this discussion, it's like we know where we're moving, or I believe I know where I'm going, and I believe there's other people in the room that know where we're going. And
so just so you know, the recording has begun, actually, Henry.
Okay,
so
well,
anything you can or do say will be used against you in a court of law, but or may. But yeah, no, the only enemies we have, of course, in the room tonight are Republicans. This is a Democratic county committee, and we don't want to consider our comrades in the committee enemies. As I say, the only enemy.
Well, let me restate what I said, and I think there are people that are misinformed.
Okay,
let's keep it at that.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, so as you're coming in, we're waiting a few minutes as people slowly trickle in. Unlike the Tuesday night meeting, there is no hard and fast cutoff of credentialing. You're all welcome to come when you can or wish and leave when you want to. And yes, credentialing did not cut off at 6:45. And we'll go until about 9 o'clock. We're slated for 7 to 9. So as I mentioned in the, not really an agenda, right? A kind of tentative agenda or outline. A few topics that we'll be discussing tonight that all of us, you know, can contribute to. And then I want to have some time towards the end for open discussion, free form about other things. But the things that I thought that we should get to tonight are a few. The election challenge and the rebuttal response, the 80-51 deadlock. That's a fascinating story. The committee assignments that were made after the regional vice chair elections, 48 hours later. That is another fascinating topic, to say the least. And then August 11th, the August 11th meeting, a lot went down. It was quite interesting, shall we say. And so there's a lot to talk about. So that's what this forum is designed for. Once again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cole Padilla. I'm an elected LACDP member from Assembly District 49, elected on March 3rd. Previous to that, I was an associate member of LACDP for about a year in my capacity as the club representative for the Feel the Burn Democratic Club of Los Angeles County, which was the only Bernie Club official within the county party apparatus until our friends in the San Fernando Valley decided to actually start their own. And so they are now Feel the Burn San Fernando Valley. We have some of them in the room I see tonight. So welcome everyone, burner and non-burner alike. I began these forums, right, with co-hosts. Tonight I'm just hosting alone in order to provide a forum for us to discuss and even debate the important issues of the day related to the LA County Democratic Party that we were elected or appointed to. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're the biggest county committee in the country, right, representing over 2.9 million Democrats. And so there's a lot of stuff and a lot of people and a lot of issues and a lot to get to. Without further ado, we should probably start getting to it because I don't want to keep you all night. Those of you who are joining, if you would put yourselves on mute if you're not speaking. We are not going to be muting everyone and preventing you from unmuting yourselves as they're currently doing against the rules, many of us believe, of Robert's rules during LACDP meetings. You are welcome to unmute yourself and speak if you wish to do so. But while someone else has the floor, I would ask that you do mute yourselves so that we don't have, background noise and extra commentary you may not want known. And again, just to repeat, we are recording this for the benefit of those who can't be here tonight for whatever reason, but who wanted to come and would like to see this, after tonight. So we're live streaming, right, Dennis, on Facebook right now?
Just ran into a problem. Give me one moment.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And again, these meetings are unofficial. They are not official LACDP meetings. These are public forums that any member of the public is welcome to come and attend, not just LACDP members. Friends, family, coworkers, your neighbors, anybody is welcome to join in, especially Democrats, of course, because we are the LA County Democratic Party. So these are issues that are of interest to certainly all Democrats and certainly many members of the public. So everyone is welcome. Nobody is unwelcome. We Democrats like to talk about inclusion. Well, we're going to practice it here in these Friday night forums. And so, yeah, it's nice to see everyone slowly coming in. And just a reminder that if you would, mute yourselves, or we'll mute you as you come in. Certainly if you're going to talk, but even if you're not, those of you who are joining and sometimes have just a phone number or a first name, if you would be kind enough to let us know who you are so that we all start getting to know each other. That's another reason I wanted to start these Friday night forums, is an opportunity for us to get to know each other. So, of course, at in-person LACDP meetings, we have an opportunity to socialize, right? We talk during the meeting, much to the chagrin sometimes of the chair of the meeting, we get together. Obviously, we can't do that under COVID, at least not safely. And so this is an opportunity for us to try to do that, to try to kind of replicate the group discussion and socializing element of any organization, but in our case, our LA County Democratic Party. I see that Dennis is now live on Facebook, so that is great. Thank you, Dennis. Hopefully, we don't have any technical difficulties tonight and it runs smoothly. But yes, let me see here on the list of participants who might, let's see if we have any candidates from the election, right? So that was really the first big act we did on July 11th. And again, to give you a little backstory, if you're joining for the first time tonight, this is, I don't know what number Friday Night Forum. We have been hosting candidate forums up until tonight for candidates running for LACDP office, right? The countywide officer positions and the regional vice chair officer positions. Regional vice chairs are officers of LACDP. They do sit on the important policy committee. So we hosted those candidate forums. Unfortunately, none of the candidates who got elected to come and join us and answer questions and discuss the issues with us. We were greatly disappointed in that. There is a standing invitation to them and all members of LACDP to come, as I say, all members of the public. But Zoom bombers, stay away. So that was a disappointment. However, we are continuing, and we did have some of the candidates who lost join us. The only candidate who prevailed, who joined us for any of the candidate forums, was John Harabedjian, and we certainly thank him for coming. He sat with us a couple weeks ago for a good hour or more. I forget exactly now, but you know, we covered a lot of terrain. The questions that we asked the candidates were gleaned from you, the members of LACDP. We put out an open call, solicited questions, and we asked those questions. In some cases, we had to, you know, massage those questions, you know, make them in order and combine them, you know, eliminate repeat questions, et cetera, et cetera. But they were the questions that you all wanted to get asked and answered. And as I say, unfortunately, the current countywide elected officers of LACDP chose not to do so, except for John Harabedjian. So kudos to him. And I have not, my apologies, posted that on YouTube. That is on our Facebook page, however. The full hour or so with John Harabedjian, the regional vice chair for Region 3, but again, on the policy committee, he's one of 7 regional vice chairs who come from a region, but are there, you know, making policy or making decisions for all of us LACDP members. So it was a very interesting discussion, a very interesting chat, and I would encourage you to look on the Facebook page, and once I get that posted on YouTube, you can look at it there as well. And okay. Henry Ortiz saying, can we move on the agenda? Yeah, yes, we can. I did want to, though, take care of all these housekeeping things at the start and let people trickle in. Okay, I am looking here, and I am not seeing a candidate in the room right now who filed the election challenge. However, I have a copy.
Hey, Paul?
Yes.
Paul, I'm here. It's Melissa. I'm just by
yes.
phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, you're on your phone, so we can't see. I don't think we see your name in here. Oh, yeah, I see 2 phone numbers, so you're one of them. Okay. Yeah, if for the benefit of folks, I don't know if you're able to put in your name. This is Melissa Michelson, folks, 8049. I don't know if you can do that, Melissa.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. So you're just coming to us by phone, and yeah, it's up to you. We had discussed this in the planning for tonight, perhaps even reading the election challenge. The election challenge meeting happened, or the election challenge happened during the counting, right? So there were about 90 people who attended that, but there's about 500 members of LACDP. And so the vast majority did not hear the challenge. And the 3 people who heard the challenge, Garry Shay, the parliamentarian, Laurence Zakson, I believe acting as the attorney for LACDP, and Nichelle Henderson, a member from the, I think, Rules and Bylaws Committee, they heard the challenge. They issued a rebuttal. They did not accede to the challenge the night it was filed. And so the election was declared valid. Of course, the challengers were saying it was not a free or fair election and therefore should be null and void. So Melissa, it's up to you. I don't know if it would take 5 to 10 minutes to put up on the screen. Well, you don't have the screen to put it up. I could, I have a copy, could put it up myself if you want to read and or review it with the members, since you were one of the 4 filers of it, you know, and up to
Well,
you.
I have it actually, but how much of it do you want me to read?
Well,
And do you
you
want?
know,
Are you going to be placing it on the screen for people?
so let me go get that document, and we will put it up on the screen for the benefit of all.
Do you want me to start reading already, or should I wait? Because I don't see anything.
Yeah, no. Let me put it up on the screen first. Okay, so let me grab that. Okay, let's see here. Just give me a moment, folks. Sit tight. That's another thing. Feel free to go use the restroom if you want to or need to during the course of these 2 hours. Just I would remind you, if you're on your phone, please turn off the video so we do not have any Zoom bombing. And you might also want to turn off the audio of anything like that. But let me bring this up on screen first, and then we can review it all as a group, and everyone can see what the problems were as alleged by the complainants who filed the election challenge. Let me get this onto the screen here. Let's see. Okay, we're going to, just a second here. Okay, and let's see. Okay, I have it up on the screen now. So what I'm going to do, let's see if this works. Oops, my screen just suddenly shrank. Okay, there we go. Let's see if we do a share screen. Okay, share screen, and we're gonna go to desktop. Okay, is that working? Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, excelente. So I've copied and pasted this here, and Melissa, if you would like to start story time, everybody can see what you're reading and follow along.
All right, and if someone else wants to continue reading off any of the other candidates, just let me know.
Yeah, I don't know if Maria Estrada, Linda Bassett, or Roberto Alvarez are going to be able to make it tonight. I know that 2 of them told me they may not. I don't know about Maria Estrada.
I am here. I can help
All
out.
right.
Roberto is here. All right. Okay, so is Linda Bassett in the room? No, Linda Bassett. Okay, so.
Yes, she's probably just muted.
Oh, Linda Bassett is here. Okay. Is Maria Estrada here?
Not directly.
Okay. So what I thought, because there's 4 candidates and actually they filed 4 election points, they could each take 1. But Melissa, you're free to start it off, and then I guess Roberto and Linda can take items 2 and 3, and we can go down the list.
All right. So this letter went to the LACDP and presiding officer, Garry Shay. We, the undersigned candidates for the offices of chair, female vice chair, other than self-identified female vice chair, and corresponding secretary of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, LACDP, do hereby contest this entire election on the grounds that it was not a free or fair election. Elections that are not free or fair should be declared null and void. The following are reasons this election was not free or fair. Number 1, literally not free. This election was literally not free until after July 11th, the day we members of LACDP at our organizational meeting that followed our swearing in as members earlier in the day, successfully passed a motion to finally force LACDP Executive Director Drexel Hurd to provide a free to LACDP officer candidates LACDP member contact information, a necessity for LACDP officer candidates to adequately campaign. Up until July 11th, Executive Director Hurd, when asked individually by possible LACDP officer candidates for LACDP member contact information, demanded payment to LACDP in exchange for it. In pre-July 11th mass emails to current and incoming LACDP members about the election process, Executive Director Hurd never stated that LACDP member contact info could be bought for campaigning. Some early LACDP officer candidates had been campaigning for months, including via phone calls, text messages, emails, and mailed letters, utilizing LACDP member contact information not publicly available from the County Registrar Recorder Office. The provenance of such data to such early LACDP officer candidates is currently unclear. At the July 11th organizational meeting, incumbent LACDP Chair Mark Gonzalez initially claimed anyone, just like him, could have obtained such member contact information via the County Registrar Recorder's Office. However, new LACDP member Angelica Dueñas challenged Mr. Gonzalez during the organizational meeting by stating that he had made a campaign call to her on a private phone number of hers. At that point, Mr. Gonzalez then claimed he had indeed obtained private member contact information by purchasing it from LACDP. Since July 11th, Ms. Dueñas has asked Mr. Gonzalez multiple times by text message, voicemail, email, and Facebook post for proof of such purchase via receipt, but Mr. Gonzalez has failed to respond, let alone provide any such proof of payment. It is currently publicly unknown how Mr. Gonzalez's, quote, slate mates for LACDP office, female vice chair candidate Pat Sanders, other than female vice chair candidate Sergio Carrillo, recording secretary candidate Olivia Lee, corresponding secretary candidate Marcelo Cortez, and controller candidate Jacob Hake obtained LACDP member contact information for all the campaigning they did prior to July 11th using LACDP members' private contact information. It should also be noted that the member contact information that Executive Director Hurd shared with officer candidates after the successful July 11th motion was an unworkable PDF file. Corresponding Secretary candidate Melissa Michelson, that's me, emailed Mr. Hurd and spoke to him by phone to request the file in workable Excel form, but he refused. When Ms. Michelson asked Mr. Hurd how the member list had been given to candidates who bought it before July 11th, Mr. Hurd did not answer, but instead attacked me for, in his view, not taking fundraising seriously enough.
Okay,
So
I
point
can do
number
number
two, maybe we should switch our readers, as it were. If Roberto would like to
Yeah,
take point number two.
so point number two, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
LACDP Executive Director Rexel Hurd, a partisan and neutral administrator of election. Common sense, basic ethics, simple decency, and fair play dictate that a bureaucratic administrator conducting an election cannot be a partisan for candidates in the election. Such a bureaucratic administrator cannot work, whether in a paid or unpaid capacity, as a campaign representative, campaign spokesperson, campaign consultant, and or campaign manager for certain candidates in an election for which they are also working as administrators. However, that is precisely what LACDP Executive Director Drexel Hurd has been doing for at least a month now during this election. The LACDP Executive Director is an employee of the LACDP, whose job is to serve all LACDP members and not to play favorites, especially in an election among LACDP members for LACDP office. The Executive Director must be rigorously and competently and completely neutral in such an election that the Executive Director is conducting. The Executive Director, Drexel Hurd, has not been neutral. Instead, Mr. Hurd has worked, paid or unpaid, as a campaign representative, campaign spokesperson, campaign consultant, and or campaign manager for chair candidate Mark Gonzalez, female vice chair candidate Pat Sanders, other than female vice chair candidate Sergio Carrillo, recording secretary candidate Olivia Lee, corresponding secretary candidate Marcela Cortez, and controller candidate Jacob Hawk. Mr. Hearst's paid or unpaid work for this slate of 6 LACDP officer candidates become known to the LACDP members Jacinta Link and Paul Cole Padilla because of the work organizing outside independently administrated LACDP officers candidate forums. In numerous phone calls, text messages, and emails between himself and Mrs. Linky and Mr. Cole Padilla, Mr. Hare acted as a campaign representative, spokesperson for Mr. Gonzalez, Mrs. Sanders, Mr. Carrillo, Mrs. Lee, Mrs. Cortez, and Mr. Hawk. Furthermore, candidates Gonzalez and Hake both informed Mr. Linky that all such scheduling for any possible appearance by them at these outside independently administered forums could be arranged and negotiated by Mr. Hurt for them. It was discovered in campaign finance disclosure documents that approximately 2 months ago, on May 19, 2020, Mr. Gonzalez's Personal Political Action Committee, Democrats for a New Generation PAC, out of which Mr. Gonzalez has been campaigning for re-election as LACDP chair, pay Mr. Hurt in the amount of $500 to serve as a campaign consultant. After this discovery, Mr. Linky and Mr. Cole Padilla began asking Executive Director Hurt via email whether he has been working for Mr. Gonzalez, Mrs. Sanders, Mr. Carrillo, Mrs. Lee, Mrs. Cortez, and Mr. Hawk in a paid or unpaid capacity. Initially, without answering the question directly in a couple different emails, Mr. Hayes simply said he handles LACDP officer appearances in his capacity as an executive director of the LACDP. Of course, for starters, Jacob Hall was merely a controller candidate, not an incumbent LACDP officer, when Mr. Hare was acting as Mr. Hawk's representative spokesperson with Mrs. Linky and Mr. Cole Padilla. Regarding the other 5 incumbent office holders of the 6-member candidate slate that Mr. Hare was assisting, Mr. Hare was acting on their behalf for their personal re-election campaign purposes, not any official LACDP business they were conducting. The forums Mrs. Linky and Mr. Cole Padilla were organizing were outside independently administered candidate forums, and that was made clear to Mr. Hare, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Hake, and all other candidates. On July 16, Mr. Hare finally directly answered Mr. Linky and Mr. Cole Padilla questions via email. He claimed he was not working in a paid capacity for the slate he had been helping, but he angrily added that whatever he does on his personal time is nobody's business but his. It should be noted that Mr. Hare was serving as a campaign representative spokesperson for his 6-member slate of LACDP officer candidates, while in the clock as LACDP Executive Director, which was his stated reason for helping this slate of 5 incumbent office holders and 1 newcomer candidate. Mr. Hare also conducted all his email correspondence on behalf of his slate using the official LACDP email account, not any personal email account of his. Email accounts aside, it must be stated once again, the executive director of LACDP, whether doing so on a pay or unpaid basis, whether acting in an official or personal capacity, cannot work for the election or re-election of any LACDP officer candidates, period. For the record, it should be noted that at 4:13 p.m. on July 8, 2020, Mr. Hare emailed Mr. Linky and Mr. Cole Padilla that Mr. Gonzalez had an unspecific scheduling conflict come up that prevent Mr. Gonzalez from honoring his commitment to appear at the independently administered candidate forum the next evening, July 9. 2 minutes later, At 4:15 p.m. on July 8, Mr. Gonzalez via mass email to his personal Democrats for a New Generation PAC, the PAC for which Mr. Hurd was paid to serve as a campaign consultant on May 19, announced a brand new, last-minute, one-day notice campaign event billed as a conversation with Mr. Gonzalez, Mrs. Sanders, Mr. Carrillo, Mrs. Lee, Mrs. Cortez, and Mr. Haight, featuring themselves and various politicians from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on July 9, conflicting with a portion of the July 9 Independent Forum Mrs. Linke and Mr. Cole Padilla had held, set up, and to which Mr. Gonzalez and his slate have previously committed through Mr. Hurd. Mr. Gonzalez and his slate may choose not to appear at the Independent Forum July 9, July 10, or July 17, even though Mr. Linke and Mr. Cole Padilla continue to reach out to that slate of candidates through Mr. Hurd acting as their intermediary, as Mr. Hurd, Mr. Gonzalez, and Mr. Haight have previously instructed Mr. Linke to do.
Okay, so that is the second election challenge point. Is Linda Bassett or Maria Estrada here to read their third or fourth challenges? Are they in the room, Dennis? No? I can't hear you, Dennis.
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Yeah, so Linda is in the room.
I don't know if Linda is she on her phone and maybe can't see this, or
She was speaking to us earlier, but she might have had to walk away for.
That's okay. Maybe Ms. Michelson, Melissa, if you want to take points 3 and 4. Are you still there?
Yes. Sorry, I'm unable to do that at this time.
Okay, then Roberto, if you want to just keep reading. Yeah.
Let me finish them. So point 3, improper candidate listings. In the official ballot listings, as documented on the official LACDP website and its official LACDP emails about the election from LACDP Executive Director Rexel Hare, the LACDP official candidates were listed in a prejudicial fashion that any neutral election administrator will have avoided and that any independent election expert will decry as an unfair. The unfair benefit accrued solely to the incumbent candidates whose campaigns Mr. Hare worked for in an unpaid or paid capacity. The incumbent candidates were all listed first about us, their challengers, no matter the alphabetical order of our names. These incumbent candidates also had an asterisk star placed next to their names. At the bottom of the list of candidates, it was mentioned that the asterisk star denoted incumbent status. Number 4, return ballot period for this election 1 day shorter than announced. The return ballot period for this election was announced in official correspondence by LACDP Executive Director Rexel Hare as listing 14 days. However, it only lasted 13 days. On Monday, July 13, ballots were sent out via email at 3:15 p.m. The voting deadline given was Sunday, July 26 at 3:15 p.m. That period is only 13 days, not 14 days. We hereby call for a new election, a free and fair elections, because the election ending July 26 at 3:15 p.m. was neither free nor fair. It should be declared null and void. Sincerely, Maria Estrada, candidate for LACDP Chair; Linda Bassett, candidate for the LACDP Female Vice Chair; Roberto Alvarez, candidate for LACDP other than self-identified Female Vice Chair; and Melissa Michelson, candidate for LACDP Corresponding Secretary. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share right now. And what I will let Roberto and Melissa do is provide any extra comments or thoughts as they wish. Linda Bassett, you're welcome to do so as well, or Maria Estrada if you're in the room, before we go to discussion. What I'd also like to do is put up on screen after that the rebuttal that was issued by Garry Shay and by Laurence Zakson and Nichelle Henderson in their capacity as the 3 hearing officers on the challenge at the vote count. So Roberto and Melissa, Linda Bassett, and Maria Estrada, if you're in the room right now, the floor is yours.
Hey, Paul, I just want to, and everybody listening, I just want to say 3 things. One is that when I asked Drexel for the list of contacts after a motion was made at the meeting to make the list free, and I got an Excel spreadsheet, I got a PDF that wasn't really workable, and I tried to export it into Excel, and that was a problem as well. And so I asked him point blank, is that exactly the same list? Is that the same thing that got sold for $2,000 to the highest bidder, you know, and other candidates? And is that what people are paying for? Because that's not really worth it. I've never been so condescended to, and I'm an elected member. I mean, 11 to 12,000 people voted for me to represent them at the LACDP. And I just was really disappointed in his response, which was exactly as was on the letter, that he didn't think, by judging by my speech that I had made when my candidate speech, that I would be taking fun at the candidate speech. The LACDP and the Democratic Party itself needs to change its ways and be more accountable and transparent if the party wants to get new members. So anyway, that was the first thing. The second thing is that the proceedings where Garry Shay and the committee decided that, you know, basically we had no ruling, or there was no, you know, we had no standing there, and therefore didn't approve our challenge. It was very frustrating to me having to explain to them and constantly basically answering the same question over and over again. Maybe, Paul, you could, I know you were on the call at the time, but maybe later you could talk about that too. But I'm driving, so I'm just going to hang up. I'm not hang up. I'm going to put myself back on mute. I'll be listening. Oh, I forgot the third thing, frankly.
It's your birthday?
So that's it. No. I forgot the third thing. I had 2 things I wanted to say. I forgot the third thing.
If you remember the third thing you wanted to say, feel free to come back. But I'd also like to hear from Roberto Alvarez and Linda Bassett and Maria Estrada if they're in the room here.
Paul, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
First, if you can keep an eye on your Facebook Messenger, so I can send you notes regarding things that are going on in the chat room.
Oh, yikes! I'm sorry. Yeah, I have not been.
A couple people have asked that if the document that was shared earlier, if that's online, and if you can post the link to it in the chat room.
Yeah, you know what's unfortunate is that document. I do not believe was made public. So what I can do now is throw it in the chat. The document, the rebuttal, however, from LACDP was made public, and we'll review that next. But let me go fish that out, and I'll just put it in the chat, or I could just put it in, I guess, as a Word file here. But let me. I think it's going to be. I don't have it saved. Let me just put this here. Copy. And let's put this in the chat. This is the challenge, folks. Oh, it's too big. Okay, so I'm going to have to save it as a file here. Yeah.
It's Melissa. If you recall at the last, I guess it was a week ago, on Friday at the town hall, I have a link. I was sharing the link to this letter, and at the bottom of the letter has the link to the Garry Shay response letter. So I have everything.
Can you put it in the chat? No.
I'm not able to get it.
You're not able to get it?
I will. I'd be happy to do that in about 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If people want to wait.
That'd be great.
It's a live link.
Okay. And meanwhile, yeah, let me see. Wait, can I? Yeah, no, this is save chat feature. let me, let's maybe for Melissa, but okay, so let's hear from Roberto Alvarez, Maria Estrada, Linda Bassett, if you're in the room, and if Melissa then remembers her third point, she's welcome to bring it or anything else. Is Linda Bassett here? I see Roberto Alvarez is here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. I can. Welcome.
Here's Maria. Maria can talk to you.
I'm actually with Linda.
So Maria Estrada, okay, so we get a 2-for-1 deal here. Very good. So double the pleasure. Ladies, yeah, if you would, if you'd like to give your comments or thoughts on the election challenge you filed, we'll get to the rebuttal next. You can preview it if you want to respond, pre-butt the rebuttal, but the floor is yours.
Okay. Let's see. The thing that I went on to challenge was, what was that again? It was the time. It was the time. They couldn't count the time right. So our great Democratic leaders couldn't figure out how many hours there were in, what was it? They had, what? I forget now myself. Was it 2 weeks? Tell me, Paul.
Yeah, the election was set for 2 weeks, and it was stated as 14 days. Right.
And they were a day
and
short.
It was only 13
hours.
days. Right. They were 24 hours short.
And then when we challenged them on it, they like scratched their heads, and then they said, "Oh well, you know what's a day? And there were only 44 votes outstanding, and you know what? You lost anyway." So
it was, let me guess. They said it wouldn't have made a difference.
It wouldn't have made a difference.
They fucking say that about every fucking thing.
I know that Maria Estrada is okay with F-bombs. Just to remind both of you and everyone in attendance, we are recording, and so any words that you say will be made public, or are already being made public. We're live streaming on our Facebook group page. Anyway, just a reminder to everyone in the room.
If you need a bleed, but we're all about,
and it's adults in
we're
here.
all about transparency. This is about transparency, which is what the
honesty
lacks.
Right.
No transparency.
No honesty there at all. And
the fact is that
sloppy ass work.
They do everything. They always have it tilted in their favor. The reality is, Mark Gonzalez has to put up those receipts he talked about. And I don't appreciate when we're gaslighted for saying liar or corrupt. And we're gaslighted for saying it, but the fact that they're lying and they're corrupt is ignored. So to me, he does need to answer for that. There has to be accountability. And you can't sit there and make statements as the chair of the largest Democratic committee in the country and not be held accountable. He, of all people, has to be held at a higher standard than everyone else because of his position. People cast their vote for him. Why? Because they trust him, or because he is corrupt and they fucking support that bullshit. Whatever the fucking case is, he needs to put up or shut the fuck up. And if he can't provide that proof, he needs to step down because it's an embarrassment. It's fucking embarrassing. And I'm going to make sure people see, like, Dorothy and Susie Shannon. I want people to know who these fucking people are. I want them to see their faces. I'm going to pull up fucking information on people so that these are the people that represent you and this is what they're doing in your name.
In the name of democracy.
In the name of democracy. Okay. And they're rigging. The thing is, let's be honest. I had no chance of winning. Well, we know how this all transpired, right? It wasn't like I was kind of blindsided by all this whole thing. But the point is that it has to be fair. It has to be fair. You can't sit there like right now, they're making a big deal about Trump and the post office and all this shit. If the Democratic Party had the opportunity to do that, if Mark Gonzalez, if Sergio Carrillo, if any of them had the opportunity to do that, they would do the same shit Trump's doing to win. So that's what I don't have patience for, and I have no respect for that. So either you hold yourself to that high standard or you shut the fuck up. It's that simple. everyone in this chat and everyone that hears this expects at least that, at the very least, because you can't sit there and demand a higher standard when you're below the bottom of the barrel. And that's what I see Mark Gonzalez, Sergio Carrillo, and that whole fucking group as. The bottom of the fucking barrel. Yep.
All right, just a warning to any children who are listening. We are not censoring words, but we are all adults here, I think, in the chat. And so I have no problem with the F word or any other such word. But for those of you who do, you know, I guess you can take it up with Maria, but I am permitting it.
Good luck with that. Good luck.
So we're all adults here, and hopefully you're not offended. But if you are, I don't apologize, and I don't think Maria is apologizing either. So
you know, when you've been lied and cheated and stolen from, for
as often as I have,
what we have seen in the name of democracy been done at the very lowest levels, and unfortunately, we know at the very top of the levels what's happened to Bernie. And you're going to get mad because somebody is speaking the truth in very forceful and rightfully angry words, and you're missing the boat. Because if we don't have, you know, right now I'm really disappointed. I really don't believe we have a democracy. I really don't believe that we live in a democracy. And I'm a teacher, and I taught children that they live in a democracy and that their job was to learn how to read and write and think and be critical thinkers, to evaluate what people say to them and what they read so that they can make good decisions as good citizens. And I am completely sick to my stomach to think that I perpetuated a lie because we don't live in a democracy. And I see it at LACDP. When you can't calculate the right number of days and then you shrug your shoulders and say to me, oh, well, you know, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. No, it does matter. It's, you know, you need to make the playing field level and fair. And what else does it matter to you? We know that if you don't turn in the registration forms that people filled out in the election, oh well, it was only 24 votes. It wouldn't have made a difference. That's a lie, and lies matter. And if they don't matter to you, then okay, let's just live in a corporate controlled dystopia. I'm not for it. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Linda. And I think maybe we'll give Roberto the opportunity to speak next.
Oh, just real quick, Linda Perez has her hand up.
Oh yeah, you have a quick question, Linda?
I have a comment.
If you can, I don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
if you can hold the comments until after.
Okay.
What I want to do right now is give the candidates who challenge the election the opportunity to have the floor, and then I want to go over the rebuttal statement. Garry Shay, Nichelle Henderson, and Laurence Zakson were all invited. I do not see them in the room. They're welcome to provide their commentary. And then at the conclusion of that, we can have a brief discussion and then move on to some of the other important issues of the day in the second hour here. But yeah, let's go to Roberto for the moment. If you'd like to say anything.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I follow those two over there. But no, I mean, when I ran for, you know, the position, is because, you know, the officer said anybody can run. You can run from the floor as long as you have someone to nominate you and you accept the nomination. You can run, and you say, well, why not, right? We have seen what we have become with the Democrats and the Republicans, and we see how dear the situation is out there for millions and millions of people out there, people that voted for us, hoping that we're going to make a difference. People that is screaming for Medicare for all. People that is screaming to make the playing field level for them, to have the opportunities like any other America has, which the Democratic Party says that they do, that's what they're here for. And we identified that that's not true. That's not what they do. And they are very servants to corporate, you know, masters or holders or whatever, And we are here just to find out why is that. And we're going to expose them, and we're going to call on them, and we're going to hold accountable to that. Because how is it possible that in California, the most progressive state in the whole nation, we cannot pass Medicare for all when the polls show that 80+% of people want it? How the hell that is possible? Why that does not happen? And why people is not angry about it? People is dying every year because we don't have that in California. You are an illness away from losing your home, going bankrupt, losing your life savings that you have. And that keeps passing, and we go like, why this thing happens? Why don't we have a better safety net? Why don't we have these, institutions in place to protect the people from the ravages of capitalism? Why don't we have check and balance in our system? And that's why we are coming over here and try to make these people understand that what we're fighting is the right fight and is the right time. And if I run to be able to speak in front of all these, people that belongs to the LACDP as a members that have been elected, I'm hoping that they will open up their eyes and they will realize it's the right fight that everybody should be fighting for. And that's what I do it, and that's why we are here in this struggle. And we are not going away because the issues are getting bigger by the day. We are going to be proven right because what is happening outside, unfortunately, when people start losing their homes now because of freaking pandemic, that it has not been, having a leadership in order to control this. So what happened with the Democratic Party? Why they are not doing more that is needed at the local level in every city, in every assembly district? Why is not happening? Why they are only using their hands? So that's why I'm here, and that's why we are fighting. And I hope we can get more people to fight with us because people out there are hoping that we're going to be fighting for the right things.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. Hearing section coming from the phone of Linda Bassett and Maria Estrada. So we've heard now from all four of the challengers, the candidates in the LACDP countywide officer election who lost their elections and then lost the challenge. But let's go to the challenge. I'm going to bring that up on screen here. Let me see how I do this now. Let's go back to share screen and share, and let's bring this up. So everybody can see this now, hopefully. Oh, wait, that's the code of conduct. That's another topic for tonight, but this is the decision of the Appeals Committee, LA County Democratic Party 2020 election. Is everybody able to view it on screen? Okay?
Yes.
Okay, if they're here, they're welcome to read the document they produced. Is Nichelle Henderson or Garry Shay or Laurence Zakson here tonight? I don't think they're in the room. So as host, I'll go ahead and read their words for them. It says, pursuant to the elections rules adopted by the policy committee of this committee on April 14, 2020, an appeals committee consisting of parliamentarian Garry Shay, who was also the presiding officer at the elections portion of the organizational meeting, Rules Committee co-chair Laurence Zakson, and Credentials Committee co-chair Nichelle Henderson, considered a challenge to the 2020 election of officers filed by Maria Estrada, candidate for chair, on behalf of herself and Linda Bassett, candidate for self-identified female vice chair, for non-self-identified female vice chair, Roberto Alvarez, candidate for, other than self-identified female vice chair, and Melissa Michelson, candidate for corresponding secretary. On July 28, the ballots for the offices of chair, self-identified female vice chair, other than self-identified female vice chair, and corresponding secretary were published, and the following vote count was announced. Chair, Mark J. Gonzalez, 181 votes. Maria Estrada, 23 votes. Vice Chair, other than self-identified female, Sergio Carrillo, 180 votes. Roberto Alvarez, 26 votes. Vice Chair, self-identified female, Pat Sanders, 172. Linda Bassett, 38. And corresponding secretary, Marcela Cortez, 169 votes to Melissa Michelson's 42 votes. And now here is the meat of their rebuttal. Let me get a drink and you can, just give me a moment. The following challenges were determined to be timely, and each was unanimously found to be without merit. Accordingly, the election results for each contested race were upheld. Challenge number 1, entitled Literally Not Free. This challenge objects to the fact that the list of eligible voters was, prior to July 11, only available to the candidates and their supporters if they purchased the list. This is an objection to a policy of this committee to charge for access to the membership list and not a violation of any election rule. As such, it is not grounds for setting aside the election. This challenge also alleges in a conclusory fashion and based more or less entirely on speculation that there was something amiss with respect to the incumbent candidates and apparently Jacob Hake's access to membership data. Elections are presumed to be fair and regular, and the challenger has the burden of adducing sufficient evidence to overcome that presumption and to establish a reasonable and plausible likelihood that, absent any irregularity, the outcome could have been different. Whereas here, the predicate for the challenge is entirely speculative, the presumption is not overcome. Accordingly, the Appeals Committee unanimously has rejected Challenge 1. Challenge 2, entitled LACDP Executive Director Drexel Hurd, a partisan, not neutral administrator of the election. This challenge objects to Executive Director Hurd simultaneously serving as election administrator and scheduler for party officers, and also speculates that the Executive Director may have taken actions to assist the incumbent candidates and Mr. Hake. There is no rule prohibiting the employees of this committee, including Mr. Hurd, from simultaneously serving as a scheduler for party officers and serving as election administrator. As such, even if true, this is not grounds for setting aside the election. The remaining allegations are both denied by Mr. Hurd and supported by probative evidence rather than conjecture. As a result, these are fatally deficient in overcoming the presumption of fairness and regularity attaching to the election results. Accordingly, the Appeals Committee unanimously has rejected Challenge number 2. Challenge number 3, entitled Improper Candidate Listing. This challenge objects to the ballot order and the indication of incumbent candidates with an asterisk /*. The challenge does not allege a violation of any rule. As a result, it is not grounds for setting aside the election. Accordingly, the Appeals Committee unanimously has rejected Challenge number 3. Challenge number 4, entitled Return Ballot Period for this election 1 day shorter than announced. This challenge objects to the ballot return period as being approximately 12 hours short of the 14 days announced in the rules. July 13, 2020 to July 26, 2020 is in fact a 14-day period. However, even assuming for the sake of argument that the period were, as alleged, some hours short of 14 days, there is no factual predicate for a finding that keeping the voting open for those additional hours plausibly would have had a reasonable likelihood of affecting the election, as 215 ballots were cast out of 259, which means that 44 ballots were not cast. The race with the fewest vote margin between candidates was the corresponding secretary, where the winner had 127 more ballots than the unsuccessful challenger. Even if every one of those ballots were cast for the challengers, that would not have affected the outcome of any of the contested races. Accordingly, the Appeals Committee unanimously has rejected Challenge 4. This decision was final as of the oral rendering of the decision on July 28, 2020. This written decision followed. Respectfully submitted, Laurence Zakson, Garry Shay, Nichelle Henderson. And just to double check, if they are in the room and would like to comment on their document, they are welcome to do so. However, I do not see them. Let me stop the share right now, bring you all back. I do not see them in the room. So, okay. So at this point, what I'd like to do, this is Friday Night Forum, is open it up for at least a few minutes to the rest of you. If you'd like to provide any thoughts or comments or questions about the election challenge and about the, we have a person named Nature waiting to get in. I don't know if Denis just admitted that person. That is a rather bizarre name. I hope that person is not a Zoom bomber. Nature, will you please identify yourself? We do not want any pornography or anything else like that.
Chris Robeson has his hand up.
Yes, Chris Robeson.
Wait. Linda was first. Linda Perez.
No, she wasn't.
Oh, Linda was. Actually, we should say Linda Perez was about 10 minutes ago, and I asked her to hold off. So Linda Perez actually is the first in the list. Linda, are you still there?
She has a different name.
Linda Perez, not Linda Bassett.
Unmute yourself, Linda.
Linda Perez, are you there? Let's see, where is she? I'm trying to find her.
Right now. There it is.
Okay. First of all, I ran because I feel the same way you guys do. Okay, it's a lot of bullshit going on with those people. It's been for years since Bowman was there. I went to a couple of meetings and I just left disgusted because of all that BS that goes on in personal meetings. I'm thinking, can we file a lawsuit or can we bring this to Rusty Hicks, which is nothing gonna happen because he's as bad as the other people. But at least we can make it to the whole nation to know what the hell is going on. We're trying to clean up this Democratic Party, and we have the shit sitting here in LA. How can we take care of that? How can we clean this up? All of you guys have the right thought, the right meaning, you know, the love for this Democratic Party, and we have people that is just messing it up. So I was thinking about that lawsuit. If we need to fundraise for that lawsuit, then I'll give money, 5, 10. Together and put this in a lawsuit. Hey, I'm all for it. And there's so many illegalities that we need to bring to their face. Can I share the documents with my club, EAPD?
Yes, of course. These are,
Okay.
I regret the fact that Mr. Shay, Mr. Zakson, Ms. Henderson did not make public the actual election challenge, and my apologies for not being able to get it into the chat. Melissa Michelson has said that she will post a link to it shortly and put it in the chat so everybody can have access to that election challenge. Mr.
Yeah,
Shay
I'll
and Ms.
put it
Zakson,
in 5 minutes.
okay, they just posted.
I'll get it in there right now.
So again, that's another reason, right? In the interest of openness, transparency, accountability,
Yes.
that I wanted to start these Friday night forums to make these things known, right? To let us discuss and debate these issues in a free form. Well, not entirely free form. We are kind of structured, but in a forum, right? To give you all the floor, to give the affected parties the floor to make their case and discuss the issues with all of us. I do not see, as I say, Nichelle Henderson, Garry Shay, or Laurence Zakson here to speak more about their rebuttal letter. So we can go to, I think Chris Robeson was next with his raised hand.
All right, let me preface this. I have been a member on and off for the last 15 years of the LA County Democratic Party, as they call themselves. It's a central committee, but they call themselves the party. All under, except most recently, under the Bauman administration. Does everyone know that Eric Bauman was an employee of the Speaker of the Assembly at a tune of something over $100,000 a year for most of that period? First with Speaker Perez and most recently with Speaker Rendon. And the fact is we are fighting City Hall. The person who is running LA County is not Mark Gonzalez. It's not Garry Shay. It's not even Drexel Hurd. My contention is Drexel Hurd is taking direct orders or indirect orders from the speaker. That's what we're fighting, folks. This is a very fight. Excuse me, I'm still talking. We all need to understand that we need to educate the newer members who've not served multiple terms in this board, this organization, but we need to understand that's what we're fighting. We'll talk a little bit maybe about the meeting on Tuesday, where I personally had my mic cut off, unmuted twice by Mark Gonzalez after he consulted, looking to his left or right, I forget which, no doubt getting orders from Drexel. That's what we're facing, all right? This is a fight. It won't be a fight to the death, but it will be a fight that we're going to constantly be bloodied. In the meantime, we have elections, which are important, but frankly, all of these folks wrapping themselves in the flag of defeating Trump. Bullshit. We're not going to defeat Trump in California. I mean, we are. We're going to vote against him in California. It's not going to happen here. All right. So, hey, folks, we need to be keeping a proper perspective. Also, I would admonish everyone, be very careful with your language. On Tuesday, I called Garry Shay and Chair Gonzalez liars. I'm expecting to be challenged or put up for charges for using inappropriate language. Ooh, all right. Maria Estrada, no way we're going to get her to stop with the F-bombs in 11. She's already been thrown out of the party once. They're going to try to get rid of us. And the way they're going to do it is by weaponizing the code of conduct. We'll talk about that later. In the meantime, folks, this whole process, you just saw what happened. Unilaterally, by unanimity. And here's the problem. Shay and Zakson are covered with the stench of Baumanism. I don't know about the woman, I don't know her. But there are people who are still involved with the leadership of the state and the county party who were Bauman enablers. That, can I say it here because this is not an official meeting, that motherfucker is still around. We have to understand that, and we need to work to expose it and to defeat it. Thank you very much. I yield my rest of my time.
Thank you, Chris. And I don't see any other hands raised, and we do have other items to get to tonight. So I see Melissa Michelson just joined via, I think, desktop. If she is, I think, going to share the election challenge document with us all in the chat now, Melissa?
I did, Paul.
Oh, great. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there it is, everybody in the chat. You can access it there. What I wanted to do now was turn to another election issue, right? Which was the issue of the regional vice chair elections and the 80-51 deadlock. We were going to have a speaker from 80-51 about that, one of the affected parties, one of the candidates, but she said she wasn't going to be able to attend, and I do not see her attending tonight. She had been very interested in coming and sharing with us what was going on in 80-51. Some of you may have seen the article that was written by Hugh Essen, an LACDP member, about the situation in, I don't know if it was LA Progressive or another publication. I was hoping Hugh might be coming. He was invited. I do not see him. Is anybody here from 80-51 that is an affected party, is a candidate for chair or vice chair in 80-51's deadlocked, highly interesting, highly contentious election? And where we go from here when it's a tie vote, because this brings up parliamentary issues. I do not see anyone raising their hand or from 80-51 who's an affected party. So I think we may skip that for the time being, but it's a really fascinating case, and I wish we did have somebody from 80-51, but we don't. So just briefly, right, we did have the regional vice chair elections on August 1st. And speaking of election challenges, one of the challenges from regional vice chair candidates was that they were not allowed access to the membership contact list for free. It was the impression by many of them that the successful motion filed by Susie Shannon, who is in the room tonight, applied to all candidates for LACDP office, including regional vice chairs, but to have free access to the member contact list. However, that was not given. Mr. Hurd said that he was still going to demand payment for the rosters, the list for candidates to try to contact voters, their fellow members, our fellow members of LACDP. So I don't know if there's a regional vice chair candidate who would like to briefly speak about the controversy there, but that will lead us into the committee assignments, which were made 48 hours after the regional vice chair elections on August 1st, Saturday. On August 3rd, the committee assignments were posted, and that is another fascinating subject I want to delve into tonight with all of you. But if anybody briefly wants to comment on their experience running for regional vice chair and the difficulties therein, you're free to have we can take a few minutes on that right now. Any regional vice chair candidates want to discuss the difficulties you encountered or not? Maybe you didn't, and maybe you thought everything was fine. You're welcome to jump in here. I don't see anybody raising their hand though, so we could just move on to the very fascinating committee appointments that grew out of that regional vice chair election. I have Sara Roos in the room. Sara has done a good analysis of them. Todd Jones, I think I saw in the room, has also done an analysis of who got appointed. And just to remind you, the appointments are made by the chair of LACDP, who appoints the two committee co-chairs, one of whom may be an alternate, and then one additional member. So the chair gets 3 picks. And then the regional vice chairs get 1 pick per committee. On most committees, there are a few committee exceptions. Credentials, for instance, is by AD, and so there's more members. And going back to the issue, we can get to it later, about credentialing in members during LACDP meetings. The idea, right, I think, is to have more credential committee members because you need volunteers, right, at the check-in table to check everybody in for the meeting. Usually that check-in tradition, custom has had it ending at 7:30 p.m. It ended, of course, at 6:45 on Tuesday night. So much to the chagrin of many, including myself, full disclosure. I believe that, full disclosure, the credentials should never be closed in order to follow Robert's Rules of Order, as I stated at the meeting, and the right, one of the 4 core rights of all members and all organizations to attend, right, to participate, to vote, to motion, and to speak. And people couldn't do that because they were literally locked out in, not the cold as it were, but the heat, I suppose, at 6:45. So, okay. I see Susie Shannon in the chat saying my motion was to allow all members access to the membership list for free, which was seconded by Mark Gonzalez, whether a candidate or not, allowing members to opt out of personal information. And just a side note on the personal information aspect, I did email Executive Director Hurd today. You may have seen that today was maybe the deadline, but now has been postponed, I think, due to my urging of it. I emailed Drexel this morning, and August 15th, it said Friday, August 15th was the deadline to opt in to the member contact roles and to sign the code of conduct and get your oath of office. Well, that typographical mistake was repeated several times in the applicable email. And so, of course, there's no such date this year as Friday, August 15th. Today is Friday, August 14th. Tomorrow is Saturday, August 15th. And so I said, Drexel, you've got to correct this. You got to allow people to do it until tomorrow because the 15th is Saturday. And I also asked him in the email if we were going to be allowed to opt into the sale of our private information We discussed that at the July 11 meeting, right? That there are two different books, as it were, or two different purposes. The member contact list, right, for members, an internal directory, traditionally has been free or very low cost for members. However, for a number of years now, unclear exactly, the member contact directory information, contact information, has been sold on the open market to third parties. And Drexel, of course, to Melissa and others, has scolded people for not caring enough about fundraising to continue the sale of that document, the member contact information. Steve Fisher, if you could just mute for a second, and to sell that to anyone and everyone who wishes to buy it. So when we discussed this on July 11, my understanding was that we divided that question into two parts. That members might want to allow their private information to be, in a directory for other members, but not for sale to third parties. However, Drexel said, no, I was incorrect, that the motion didn't state that, but that I could opt out if I wanted to. Of course, the standard for privacy rights, privacy organizations, is opt-in. People should have to give affirmative consent to the distribution and certainly sale of their private contact information. So if you already filled out that form today, you saw that it only applied to the internal member directory, and you could give your email or phone number, but it didn't refer to anything regarding outside sale of your contact information. So I think that's a shame and needs to be corrected and changed going forward. That's my personal view in the interest of full disclosure. But getting back to the committee assignments. So the committee assignments were made or announced on August 3rd, about 48 hours after the regional vice chairs were elected. I see Chris Robeson has a hand up. Do you have a question, Chris? Maybe that was just a hand up from earlier. Is Chris Robeson there? Chris Robeson,
yeah, I had a point of information.
Yeah.
Basically, the issue, and Paul is aware of this on Tuesday's meeting, was that both the chair and the parliamentarian, Garry Shay, lied. They stated that and those of you who have been in this committee for a while know that credentialing went through into the first half hour of the meeting, all right? And I know, Paul, you have an objection to even doing that, but that was the historical issue. Just want to bring that forward. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Chris. So regarding the committee assignments, Sara, Roos, Todd Jones, if the two of you would like to have the floor, you both have done a good, hard, thorough look at who got appointed and the committee makeup and how, well, in my view, bizarre it is. People can make their own judgments. It's bizarre from a certain point of view, and from another point of view, completely understandable, I suppose you could say. But if the two of you could maybe have the floor if you want it. If you don't, I can kind of review the issues, and then we can discuss them. But if you'd like to have the floor, the two of you, and put into the chat any documents that you'd like, screenshots. I see Sara Roos and give you some pictures if you'd like. Yeah, Sara Roos and Todd Jones, the floor is yours if you want it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I often
yeah, we can hear
have
you.
a recalcitrant computer. Yeah, I'm not sure what you guys want, but I can show you some of the stuff I've done if you'd like.
Yeah, if you can maybe share it even on your screen, put it into the chat.
You want to give me screen share? I think you have to.
Yeah. Gee whiz, let me see. Allow.
Not necessarily set up. So.
Stop video. Denis Recendez, you are still here. I do not technically know how to allow Sara to share her screen. Can you help?
Co-host.
Or did we put it into the, oh, she's a co-host now. Great, okay.
I'm a co-host, okay.
Well, so you can share your screen, yeah.
That's right. So where does it, I'm sorry, I forget where to do that. I don't see where it says that I
Should
can
be
share.
if you bring your cursor
share
over the
screen.
screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. I'm not necessarily for this, so apologies. Let me see. Hopefully I don't have anything too desperately sensitive showing up. Who am I railing against? Can you see? Whoops. Did I go
Okay,
away?
there we go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so apologies, I wasn't prepared here. Here's the committee membership, and I was just curious. Everybody's been going on about how the vote for Mark Gonzalez was, but I actually think it's a little more interesting personally to consider all 4 of the races together. There's some sort of indication of how people were willing to consider departing from the party line. So I just made up a little index number that shows you know, the degree of departure from the party line, where 4 is when we voted for all 4 candidacies that were Mark Gonzalez's slate, and 12 indicates that you voted for all of the challengers from the party slate, and the numbers are in between. That's what I'm calling AEI. So I was curious about how the composition of each of these 16 committees, sort of the flavor or character, because on another slide somewhere I can show, I'm also curious about how elected members versus ex officios tended to vote. I mean, not surprisingly, maybe inherent to an ex officio's position. In some cases, these people are highly busy statewide elected officials who are really not clued into the party, and that their sort of purpose and job in some sense is to vote the way the chair of LACDP suggests. So you kind of get a bit of an echo chamber, and you can see that reflected in a number somewhere around here. I have, let's see if I have, yeah, here. So among those, here is, yeah, among those who are assigned a committee, the ex officios have a score of about close to 4.2, where 4 is across the board voting for the party line candidates. And you can see whether or not a person was assigned to a committee doesn't change that. But among the elected members, which is, you know, I don't know if activist is necessarily the right word, but they are not part of the structure of the party in the same way, and they are, as are most of us here, willing to consider the election to be, as Paul was saying, you know, free or whatever, you know, willing to consider an alternative setup, which was structurally sort of incapacitated for the reasons that Paul was going into. But it was kind of interesting to me, at least, to see how these numbers played out. And so there you can see. So I see that as a more, you know, a more interesting way of discussing what did happen than just in terms of Mark Gonzalez. Because personally, I don't even know the guy. I don't necessarily have animus toward him. But what's interesting to me is the setup of this election and the structure where there wasn't a sort of equal flare playing field going on, and that plays out. And I also think it's important to see that the tendencies in prior elections of the elected members are different from ex officios. Somewhere around here, I have, you know, so that little index was kind of, that's something different. Sorry, I'm not set up here. So somewhere around here,
The thing that I had wanted
here's a list of
yeah.
the people who were assigned, you know, the 16 committees, if that's of interest to anyone.
That's amazing. I mean,
yes, this is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So this is the sort of distribution, if you will, of that little index, where you can see 12 people who were voted across the board for all 4 challengers, and the orange, these are people who are not assigned a committee. there's a little bit of departure allowed among people who are assigned not a committee here, but among the blue are the people, the way the people who were assigned a committee voted.
And, you know, no, I mean, the fascinating thing for me, and a lot of other people, is that the two biggest bars on that graph are on the side that was, oh, well, no, I guess that's not that. But the statistic that I am fascinated by is that the vast majority of LACDP members were not assigned to a single committee. And a relatively small group of LACDP members was assigned to multiple committees, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 committees.
Yeah.
My point is, you know, if all the language about being a welcoming and inclusive and volunteer-driven county party is true, then why is the chair of LACDP, who under the bylaws has the power to appoint as many LACDP members as he or she or they want to the committees, not letting people volunteer? We were asked for 3 choices of volunteer committee assignment, and the vast majority of us got none. Now, the committees are only have to be about 10 people, right? The 7 that are picked from each of the regions, right? And then
it actually depends.
Sure.
In the bylaws are some rules about that. So all but 2 of the committees have representation from each region according to the bylaws. 2 of the committees need to have representation from each AD.
Right.
I actually think one of those is a typo.
Okay.
And I wrote to Drexel and asked, is this a typo? Because it's not even close, the way it ended up, and I never heard back from him. So he's now pissed and not responding to me. But this column right here, and it's ordered by it, shows that the number of people who had, so Mark has subsequently assigned himself to every committee as an ex officio member, which makes some sense. So this 16 is the number of committees he belongs to, and that's, you know, not all that many.
Right,
But
right.
there are 3 people with 4, and I don't remember what the number is, 3, 6, 8 people with 3, and then something like 28 with 2 or something in the end. So a quarter, it turns out that of the 172 people who were assigned a committee, a quarter of those people have more than 1 position. And I think the number was something like 225 in the end of how many slots there were. I actually kind of forget. And so actually it turns out about half of almost exactly the number of elected members who were assigned committees was almost exactly the same as the number of elected delegates who were not. What is interesting in the way it's sort of flooded out is with the alternate members who, as we saw, have a different character to their voting than the elected members. So there is a huge amount of control there, but I would think that an effective thing to do would be to write a resolution to make some suggestions about how the party could actually incorporate new people in an inclusive and welcoming way without even challenging the old time continuity of the old guard and their responsibilities. I mean, you could set things up with new members being, you know, required or put into a committee. They could even have no vote there, but they could have some sort of mentorship or some responsibility or belonging, or be, you know, brought in without necessarily toppling the apple cart, but in a way that I agree would be an awful lot more inclusive. I mean, I don't know about any of the rest of you, but I don't think I've done anything particular that should merit sanction out the gate for having done nothing. It's just very strange. So I would love to see, I think I intend to sort of try and write a resolution with some suggestions for how the party could proceed in that fashion, because I think these data are very clear.
Well, yeah, and the other thing, speaking of those who did not vote for Chair Gonzalez or the members of his slate, Todd can speak more to this. You noticed it too, Sara, that there was only 1 person, Betty Dumas Toto, I don't know if she's in the room tonight, who did not vote for Chair Gonzalez or the members of his slate, who was appointed to a single committee.
I've been hanging back here.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you wanted me to chime in.
Please, Todd, yeah.
So initially, I had run these calculations before the last two committees got staffed. They're only recently staffed. I think the names of them are the Budget Committee and the Finance Committee. So there's actually 17 total committees if you count those as two. Even though on the website they count them as one for some reason, but if you actually delve into them, they are two committees, so that makes 17 committees. And when I did the calculation, or I summed up all the committee spots that went to voters in the election for e-board, there were at that time like 138 such spots, and 137 of those spots went to voters who had voted for Mark. And since the last two committees got populated, that situation got even worse. And of course, Mark also added in his name to all the other committees as well.
I can briefly interrupt you, Todd. I'm sorry. We're still looking at Sara Roos's screen, not your screen. So, Todd, if we're not seeing your screen, were you trying, Todd, to show us stuff on your screen or no?
No, I don't. I can't get my screen in there.
That's fine. You can if you want, or you don't have to. It's up to you.
So I can't.
Okay, you can't. So that's fine. Let's take Sarah's screen off if we can, Dennis. How do we do that? Stop sharing. Okay. So now we're back to the people. So continue, Todd.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So I've added in the names for those other two committees that got populated, and I've added in that Mark also filled up a bunch of spots of his own. So the total of spots now is 255 spots, and 164 of those spots went to voting members, and 91 of those spots went to non-voting members. So let's look. So what I wanted to do is to look at the 164 spots that went to voting members. How did those people vote? Well, it hasn't changed at all. Only one out of those 164 spots went to someone who didn't vote for Mark. Only one.
Right.
So
right. That was the fascinating statistic that really shocked me.
I think that it's kind of reductive and sounds a little overly focused to be considering just Mark Gonzalez alone. I mean, I have been around here a long time, so that's wrong, but I would consider all.
There's a quid pro quo going on here where that election happened, those people voted, and then 2 days later, these assignments come out. So it looks a little bit like, this could have happened. It gives the appearance of favoritism in a 2 orders of magnitude fashion, which is overwhelming, goes beyond the pall.
I see Brandy Grace's hand up. Did you have some more to say, Todd, though?
No.
Okay. So Brandy Grace, the floor is yours if you'd like it.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually want to echo what's been said here about, I think it's important that we encourage LACDP to make it so as many of the members as possible can equally and substantially participate in committees, because, I have friends who have worked for both state and national party politics on the GOP side. And I've even attended one of the state GOP things with my environmental group trying to, change minds. And it's striking how different it is. And my friends, when they've come over to the Democrat side now, talk about how frustrating it is, because in the Republican Party, it is incredibly easy to ladder climb. You can get involved immediately. They'll put you on all sorts of things. They have lots of support. Of course, they have lots of corporate money to do that, but they go out of their way so that newbies and young people in particular are just thrown all the support they can get and get entrenched as fast as possible. And it helps develop the loyalty that's required to get them to overlook, you know, the other things about that party. And it's part of what lets that party continue to be what it is and continue to grow. And there's no reason that we can't be doing the better version of the same thing to ensure that our young people who we need to have come out are becoming active in democratic politics and politics in general. And it's so important that we grow what we have and that we let people feel supported. And seeing it over there, even just going myself for a few hours to the state party, so many people who didn't know who I was come up to me. They just knew I was new. They hadn't seen me before, and they were immediately throwing at me, you know, I could get you into this thing. I could get you into this thing. You know, you look like you would be great for whatever. And we should have some semblance of that level of support for all new members and all members in general. So I highly support anything we can do to encourage that kind of activity in our party of equality and sharing in the committees.
Yeah, well said, Brandy. I certainly fully agree, and I imagine most of the people in the room here tonight do as well. I see a hand up from Chris Robeson.
Yes, I appreciate Brandy's enthusiasm and idealism. The fact is, this is all rigged. After Rusty Hicks was elected chair of the party, the same kind of disproportionate assignment of committee seats went to people who supported him. To the victor go the spoils, I guess. But this is totally rigged. It's rigged for control. There is absolutely no way people like Brandy are going to be able to get in, even though they may be promised, unless they sell out and drink the Kool-Aid. Sorry to be sanguine about it, but I've been at this for a few decades. So anyway, folks, open-minded, let's figure out a way that we can change the system, but we're gonna have to fight. It's not gonna be easy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Robeson. Dennis, yes.
Sara wants to share her screen again. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, Sara, sure.
Oh, no, I don't need to share the screen.
Gotcha.
Just Zoom said I'm unable to use my video. That's what it is. So I can't put my face back on. I don't have
right
it.
now.
Ask to start video. Can we get her video back?
That's all. I mean, it's not important. It's definitely not worth holding up the.
Oh, there. Are you back?
Maybe.
No, yeah, there you are. There you are. Okay,
yeah,
great.
That's all.
Okay.
I'm not.
And Melissa Michelson has her hand up. Melissa.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, or at least chime in with what Chris just said. It sure does feel that way, that if you are, I don't know about selling out, but for sure, anybody who tries to hold the party or the party officials accountable for transparency, for fairness, etc., or disagrees with them, they hold such grudges. I have never been so shocked. And again, we're the Democratic Party, so that's all I have to say. Thanks. And by the way, examples of such as me being one of the outspoken new members, Bernie Kratt members. I'm also the president and founding president of Feel the Burn Democratic Club of Los Angeles County. Is that you know, simple examples of ignoring when my hand is up on Zoom, and you know, one can say, oh, you know, maybe you misread that. No, and then when I am spoken to, it's extremely condescending. It's sighs and eye rolling and all this stuff in front of everybody. But yet, and that goes for a lot of people here on this call. But yet, when they address someone else that they liked, you could tell right away. It's really just, it's super unprofessional and childish, petty.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. And I see no other hands up at the moment. We have about 18 minutes left if we end right on time. So if we can move on to, I think what we should maybe do is, this is a longer discussion and there's a lot from the meeting to get to, but the code of conduct, I just want to remind people, right, that as I stated shortly ago, again, we're recording this, we're live on Facebook. I stated there shortly ago, the code of conduct was required now tomorrow, per I think my demand that it be extended to tomorrow because it was posted as an August 15th deadline, as a condition for obtaining our oath of office. Those of us who were elected were elected. We were sworn in with an oath of office on July 11. The code of conduct was apparently said to be, by them, passed by the policy committee on August 1st, and then made a requirement of obtaining our oath of office, which I find a little bit procedurally strange. But it was required. You couldn't obtain your oath of office on the screen, on the prompts, if you didn't agree to this code of conduct. And speaking of the issues that were raised in our August 11th meeting on Tuesday night, one of them, Melissa Michelson, who just spoke also during the meeting, saying that she had some suggestions for the code of conduct. And it was Mark Gonzalez who said he'd welcome them, and we could, or she could, anybody could email them any suggestions to LACDP. However, it's being made a requirement that we agree with the code of conduct as written and as passed apparently by the policy committee on August 1st, without input, suggestions, or anything else from the members who are being forced to sign it. So again, from a point of view of parliamentary procedure, I don't know how that is quite kosher, that we're being forced to sign something to obtain an oath of office that we didn't have any input into or agree to, but are being forced to agree to. The code of conduct, as I read it, I'm not a lawyer, but it does repeatedly refer to harassment and discrimination on protected categories, legally protected categories of individuals, and including sexual harassment. Mark Gonzalez, during the meeting, appeared, well, more than appeared, to threaten members who would violate it, and he specifically strangely cited educators and teachers. People who work in education should be able to read it and understand it, even if they're new. I don't know if he was talking to me or Ms. Michelson, both of whom are educators, and that it was in effect immediately, and that we would have to be abiding by it or else. I felt that during the meeting, I certainly did not sexually harass anyone or say any racist, sexist, homophobic, or other such thing. So, you know, my feeling is that that code of conduct, unless you're saying or doing racist, sexist, homophobic, et cetera, things, or sexually harassing or assaulting people, it cannot be weaponized or used against us to stifle the debate and discussion, for instance, that we're having here tonight. I think people should be able to speak freely in a small d democratic fashion in the big D Democratic Party. Hence, as I say, these Friday night forums. So those are my thoughts on the code of conduct. But if any of you would like to have your thoughts heard right now on the code of conduct, I see 2 hands raised: Chris Robeson, Melissa Michelson, Gabriel Ramirez. If you'd like to briefly give some comments. Let me unmute you, Chris Robeson. Yeah, yes, okay. Chris.
So a couple of points of information. Number one, a code of conduct was put together by the CDP to do 2 things. One, to inoculate themselves against further litigation by complaining employees. Now, I've been an employer, consultant, et cetera, and put together codes of conduct that deal with sexual harassment and other issues between employees and their employer. And this is all an offshoot of the Bauman outrages and the $12 million or whatever was paid out to settle those cases. All right, what the party did is they conflated that legitimate code of conduct for anti-harassment and anti-bullying, etc., with a code for members. Bullshit. We are all members. We can walk out of here. We don't have to worry about our income. We don't have one. We're here voluntarily. So what the CDC, and that's why I put my background up, is we have put together, and Paul, I've told you, I owe you this, and I will get it to you tonight or tomorrow, is we have put together a template for a membership code of conduct that should exist parallel to the parties or anybody like LA County has, Drexel and two others, I think, are employees. That's valid. They need to take the word member and membership out, and they need to replace or have alongside of it a membership code to protect members from bullying and harassment. I hope everyone pays attention to this. I think it's real important, because what's happening is there are people within the leadership of our party at the state and county level that are planning to use the code of conduct they put in place, that's why we all have to sign it, as to weaponize it, to go after people. My colleague and really close friend, Chris Tavalli, was thrown out of the party for saying something that was probably, I don't know whether it was inappropriate, I'm not to be the judge of that, but it had nothing to do with someone being an employee or not. Our friend Maria Estrada was also thrown out of the party or out of the convention for saying something nasty to one of the people who's been using this as a weaponization process. And I will say her name, Shannon Ross. So we have to be very careful, all of you, and me too, because I said liar, but I didn't say motherfucking liar. I didn't say lying asshole. I can say that here, I hope, on record. Yes. At the official meeting. Why? Because I got a target on my back already. All right, enough of that.
Well, and my perspective is that as long as you don't preface the liar by saying a racist, sexist, homophobic, thing like that, then it's just foul language.
I'd never say any of that. So
foul language is.
This is an ongoing conversation. You got 14 minutes. I just want to get that out there so people are aware that we're not hiding behind anything. We've done this. Right. This is going to be a template for all 500 Democratic clubs and central committees across California, including the CDP if they so choose.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Melissa Michelson is next to the hand raised.
Thank you. So about the code of conduct, what I found very confusing and aggravating is that we were asked to sign that code of conduct by clicking a little checkbox, and on the same exact form, the electronic form, was whether or not we wanted to opt out of the directory, of the phone directory, and email directory, contact. And so what if I didn't want to sign that code of conduct just because I felt like, well, wait, we didn't, as a body, we never voted on this. We never gave input on it. It just showed up one day. So I didn't want to necessarily, I wasn't ready to sign or, approve or accept that code of conduct, but I was ready to decide what to do with my contact info. So, but unfortunately, both of those things were in the same form. So I was my hands were tied. So I went ahead and just, did both. But at the same, like you mentioned, Paul, I brought up at the meeting on Tuesday that I had some changes and suggestions for the code of conduct. Not a lot, just some ways to tighten it up or whatever and clarify some things and add the word fair in there and whatnot. And I asked the chair, Mark Gonzalez, when that code of conduct got voted on by our body. He flat out said doesn't have to be voted on. The policy committee wrote it, and I asked which date they voted on it, and I was told I guess August 4th or whatnot. Yeah. So anyway, I question the process as usual. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Next to the hand up is Gabriel Ramirez.
Well, good evening. So yeah, I saw that email about the code of conduct, and I don't feel comfortable signing it, and I will not sign it. And my question as an alternate, what if I don't sign it? What are the precautions? Because I read it, it's a half-ass writing on that policy that does not make 1 cent. And again, like I echo with my two previous speakers, Melissa and Chris, I mean, we haven't voted on it. If we did, then when and when do we did that? Because that is not transparency. I'll keep it real right there, and I'll just leave it at there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. Chris Robeson has his hand up again. Chris?
Chris is muted.
Chris is muted. Chris, wait, Chris, we can't hear you.
All right, sorry. There we go. Got it? All right.
Yeah.
So real quick, the fact is that not me because I didn't get elected, but those of you who were elected in an election are elected officials. You don't have the right to not be listed in a directory. That is total crap. You're on the voter file. Most of us have Mo, most of us have access. A higher level elected official has a way to block that information. But those of us who are representing a constituency need to have the constituency have access to us. So having that on there is also bullshit.
Okay, I would just say to that, I agree that members should not be able to have their names completely removed from the directory. At least the name should be listed.
No, contact.
The private cell phone number or private email of a member for the internal party, LACDP purposes. Remember, this isn't to the public. This is just internal directory for LACDP members to communicate with each other. I think that members should have the right, and the motion, of course, was agreed to, that members have the right to opt in, or as it were, opt out of that revelation. Now, of course, those of us who did run for one of the 7 positions in each assembly district had the choice to publicly, actually, we didn't have to reveal our phone or email. Some of us did, some of us didn't, some of us did just the phone or just the email, when we publicly ran for office on the March 3rd ballot, just to clarify, I think there, but.
Sorry, Paul, we don't agree on that, but all right.
Okay, so that's fine. This is a forum where we can disagree. I mean, that's the whole point here. So Todd Jones is next with the hand up.
Yeah, mid-text there. So I was looking at the code of conduct, and I don't see anything in it that I'm really afraid of. So what is it what's the danger of it?
My reading is similar, that it really is just focused on harassment and discrimination against legally protected categories of individuals. It repeats that sentence over and over again in each paragraph, really. I do not think
they're going to lie and try to invent something like you did this, and it's a racial slur, and then like how they smear candidates who are running for office. Unless they're going to try something like that, we don't have anything to worry about because we're not going to do that.
Right.
But wait a second. Here's the problem. I'm sorry to interject here, but here's the
problem. Good.
None of us are lawyers, but the fact is that people who want to use this as a weapon will say what you said.
With all due respect, I had my hand up and I've been waiting. I haven't spoken.
Sorry about
that. I would like to speak.
You finish, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Finish your comment.
Real quick, is that people have and will use the, I'm uncomfortable because I'm feeling sexually harassed. That is in the view of the, and there is no process in this code for defense or appeal. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Next to the hand up was, well, actually, we were still with Todd Jones, right, Todd?
Oh, no, I handed it off to Chris, but now go on to the next speaker.
Okay, Linda Perez, you're next. We got 4 minutes if we're going to end on time. Linda Perez, are you there?
Yes, thank you. Okay. Can we have a resolution to ban the elected officials voting on our local elections? Because when they vote for those people, everybody else follows. You know what I'm saying? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So whenever, Marilena Durazo and all the other corrupted officials vote for Mark and his cronies, everybody else follows them. Have you noticed that? That's why they had over 180 votes, and that is not right. They should abstain from voting because what's her name? This lady from AD 43, she put together slates, and Laura Friedman, she put together slates and she recommended them to her whole constituency, and we lost because we couldn't fight against her. And they shouldn't be allowed to participate in that kind of elections, you know? Just my opinion.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Linda.
you.
I just wanted to get, we have 2 more hands up. Hopefully we can get them in the next few minutes. Henry Huerta, you've been waiting. My apologies. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I would just like to make one suggestion for future meetings, that if people have not spoken, that they move up in the line, because we get people that don't speak. We want to encourage all people on this call to speak and to stay on track of what we're talking about. So I wanted to get back into, and somebody has their speaker on, so I'm getting feedback. Could everybody put theirs on mute if they're not speaking?
If you're not speaking, if you can go on mute, that'd be great.
Yeah, okay, I wanted to get back to what Chris has said on code of conduct. And I think we have to look at this historically. During the state convention or the ADEM elections, my daughter Zenaida was pushed, bullied, and it went up through the whole process. The credentials committee ruled in her favor, suspended this person's credentials, and then it went before the executive officers, and they rescinded it and gave him back his credentials. So more recently, at the last LACDP meeting, Zenaida brought up the point that there is a member within 8057 that has been accused of sexual harassment. There are women that are concerned about that, and he would be on a panel for endorsement caucuses, and we were concerned about that, and that was on the discussion on code of conduct, and it was dismissed. So all I'm saying is the fact that it depends on who you are, and I think the comment came out of weaponizing the code of conduct and who it's applied and who it's not applied to. So I would be very careful in your conduct, even though you want to be an advocate, and be real careful of how you are conducting yourself, because it will be used against you. And then we're going to be having this constant battle over and over again, trying to get our members back in, because the truth of the matter is we have a lot more members than we did a few years ago, and we're still growing, but we need to be smart, strategic on what we're doing. We do need to have the rules changed. So how do we change the rules? We need to go back to the drawing board. How can we get involved in these committees? Making attempts, but going back, I mean, I'm as frustrated as everyone in this room. And I'm frustrated from the fact that, there's 2 sides to the story, and some people are listening and some people choose not to listen. And the people that choose not to listen, we need to get rid of them somehow, either through silencing them or shaming them or not electing them or what. But we do have a big battle against this, but I think we need to be real careful and strategic about how we move on. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Henry. Melissa Michelson, you're next to the hand up.
Yeah, I would love to have just let the meeting end on Henry's note, because that was well said, as well as Chris Robeson. But yeah, I had wanted to say that I was also worried about this weaponization of the code of conduct. I think there's a difference between sexual harassment and harassment. If we're not able to participate in the writing of that code of conduct, then yes, it will definitely be used against us or anybody. And we need to be able to vote on that. Also, what was I gonna say? I forgot, but I know. I recall when we were, I don't know, I think it was Jacinta or somebody was asking Drexel, and I heard about it when you were planning the forums, Didn't Drexel already kind of start throwing out, or somebody, maybe it was Mark Gonzalez, started throwing stuff out like, "Oh, you're harassing me," or I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You might clarify that, but it already has been thrown out, and even you know, with the challenge, with the voting challenge, with the election challenge, I believe Drexel complained that it was so unfortunate that as the first African American executive officer, that there were these issues. I don't know what the exact words were, but it's like, you know, I know we should have some policies and make sure that we're not harassing or discriminating, but it has to be kind of more crystal clear, so it's not wishy-washy and vague, and where it can't be used against people in instances where it shouldn't be. Thanks.
Yeah, just to clarify a few of the points that you made before you wrap up. So yes, Jacinta and I both had kind of strange interactions with both Drexel Hurd and Mark Gonzalez via email in my case, and text in Jacinta's case. In my case, I did submit this as evidence as part of the election challenge filed by the 4 losing candidates. In that email, Drexel, when he finally answered the question as to whether or not he was working paid or unpaid for Mark Gonzalez's and his slate's election or re-election campaigns at LACDP office, he suddenly came out with this strange accusation that I was a bully, and he said a few other things for even asking the question, and that his personal business is his personal business, and how dare I ask me of all people. It was a very nasty response, and I submitted that as evidence about his involvement and his partisanship in the election. And he also prefaced that statement by saying that he has heard from others, I guess via rumor, that I'm some kind of bully, et cetera, and that my conduct with him and with others, he implied, is proving that. It was a very strange email. Jacinta Linke also too was exchanging a number of texts back and forth with Mark Gonzalez. She initially endorsed him for his re-election campaign after a phone call with him that she found pleasant. And then she eventually withdrew her support after he withdrew from our candidate forum. And they were going back and forth, not in any mean fashion. She was just, asking him some pointed questions about the process. And then he suddenly said, stop harassing me. And after that stop harassing me text message, they were just having a text conversation. He proceeded to send her 4 more texts that went unanswered by her after he had claimed she was harassing him. So we found that very strange. And I also found rather sad and strange, or perhaps a predicate to maybe filing some kind of harassment or discrimination claim against me. I don't know. When the election challenge was filed, and in the document I cited, or it was cited that I was involved in this process. He made reference to the fact that in his first sentence out of the gate that he really regrets the criticism he's getting because he's the first African-American chair of LACDP. Of course, I did not mention his race at all. It was not a subject of discussion. And so it was strange to hear him raise that. I don't know if that was a threat, that he wanted to file a harassment or discrimination claim against me or Jacinta or others for challenging him on his conflicts of interest in being a partisan in the election, as being an intermediary and spokesperson for representative of certain candidates in the election. My fear, of course, has been noted, is that the code of conduct may be weaponized wrongly against people to try to silence them, to try to suppress dissent, or just to silence questions, let alone criticism. But we will keep asking questions, and it is our right to, of course, criticize and to dissent, and to to that end, that's one of the reasons I provided this forum, so we can all discuss and debate, again, as I say, the issues of the day as they relate to LACDP. We are now, of course, over time, and so I do want to respect your time, everybody's time, and end on time, or as close to it as possible. So unless there's any final hands up, I think we'll close the meeting now. We can stop the recording, and I think maybe continue the meeting next week or the week after. We didn't really get into the innards of the August 11th meeting and the issues that were raised during it. So we should do that before the next meeting, the second Tuesday in September. And I still am curious. I'd love to hear from the people on the 80-51 deadlock. I think that's a fascinating situation, scenario that's going to be playing out here. So I'd love to hear from them. And the other thing that I wanted to do tonight was actually go over the language of the Code of Conduct. We didn't get an opportunity to do that. So I think another Friday night forum, as I said, I'd like to make these at least semi-regular, is in order either next week or the week after. I will email folks as to when we can, or when I would host a next Friday night forum, perhaps next week as early as then, because yeah, we did have more to get to tonight. So with that though, I want to thank you all for coming. I thought it was a fascinating discussion. I hope you did too. That's the whole point. We want to discuss and debate these things, learn from each other, share with each other, get to know each other, and get to know the issues at hand here in LACDP better. So again, once again, thank you. My apologies that we ran out of time for open forum discussion. That's another thing I'd like to get to in a meeting next week or the Friday after. Friday night forums seem to work. They're alliterative. Most people aren't doing things on Friday nights now under COVID, unfortunately. You know, my heart goes out to you or your loved ones if you've been affected by it. Let's stay safe, everybody. Stay well, and stay in this together. We're all in this together, both the pandemic and the party. And hopefully those two things are not equally bad. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed tonight. I hope you learned from tonight, and let's stay in touch and let's keep it going. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and we will be in touch online and see you soon.
Thank you, Paul. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good night.
All right. Good
Good
night,
night, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out.
Now, we'll also be posting this. Dennis has been recording it live on Facebook, and you can cease the recording now, Dennis, and that'd be great.
Bye,